Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. In the beginning of the year, ChatGPT blew the world away, and continues to do so. The level of complexity of the feedback from ChatGPT made it clear for all that here we're dealing with a groundbreaking technology that will have a major impact on development in society. Very quickly after the launch of ChatGPT, the number of posts on the impact on grants proposal writing exploded in my LinkedIn feed. Because, indeed, this technology will have a huge impact on the proposal-based funding system and whoever is employed in it and involved in it. A couple of my LinkedIn contacts started digging into the technology, shared their findings, and discussed the implications for the whole system. So, I decided that it is time for a debate panel in the grant to discuss the technology, the implications, and the possibilities for grants proposal writing and the whole EU funding system. I invited the two independent consultants, Kristjan Zemljic and Georg Melzer-Venturi, and Director of Innovation at EIT Urban Mobility, Gareth Macnaugton, into the virtual podcast studio to have a discussion about this extremely hot topic. First, Kristjan shares with us how ChatGPT works and what he has done to work with the technology, and use all the good things of it and turn it into his advantage. Then we move into a discussion about the implications of the proposal writing. How will this affect the huge grants consultancy business? And does it even matter anymore if ChatGPT does a better job? And finally, we will dig into how this will influence the whole proposal-based funding system and reflections on how the EU Commission might deal with this new technology in their future calls and evaluation system design. You don't want to miss this episode. Please enjoy. The Grant. Welcome to the Grant podcast, the EU funding podcast. This episode, it's something that I have been preparing for a very long time. It's been months. And that's because I have the largest panel that I've ever had. I mostly have, if I've had panels, it's been 2 people and myself. Today we have 3 people. And it's exciting. And the reason why it has taken a while is because these are busy people. Also myself starts to getting busy with my daytime work and having more and more guest shows recording. Now, what we're going to talk about today, that's the ChatGPT and AI and proposal writing. So that is something, the reason why I picked it up is because when it started to roll in winter, it's exploded in my LinkedIn feed on, especially for grant consultants, on what to do and opinions about it and so on and so forth. So I thought it was obvious for a podcast like this to get people into the virtual podcast studio and get a little bit different opinions about it. What is it? What's going on? How can we use it? What implications does it have for this whole system of EU R&D funding, the proposal-based regime, so to say? No, I've been chatting enough. We need to introduce 3 guests here, so we better get going with that. And the first timers first, Gareth, welcome.
Well, it's lovely to be here. So thank you for the invite. And so it's a quick introduction. My name's Gareth Macnaugton. I currently are working for the EIT Urban Mobility, and I'm based in Barcelona. But of course, what I'll be saying today is not endorsed by the company. I'm speaking as an individual on this. My background is mostly in IT. I worked for 10 years at HP, 5 years in Cisco, and some time in between at the Commission and in the Cabinet Office in the UK. So I've varied, but always connected with applied technology. Okay, that's my background.
Oh, very well. Good. Excellent. Thanks. Kristjan,
So hi everyone, Kristjan Zemljic is my name. So I am in EU funding since 2003, so a bit of a dinosaur. Been switching between public and private companies, but since 2011 I went on entrepreneurship journey, and since then I'm mostly known, at least I think so, for helping deep tech and high tech companies to secure EU funds and equity. Mm, and well, I'm one of the co-founders at the Global Disruption, which is basically an agency doing two things. One is marketing, because we need to sell, and the other one is obviously innovation funding. And hopefully today I will be able to share some interesting thoughts on AI and pluses and minuses around it.
Yeah, we'll motivate that in a second when we move on the reason of choice of guests here. But thanks, Georg.
Yeah, my name is Georg Melzer-Venturi. I've basically a proposal writing and project management company. I've been doing this since 2001, so it's really, it's time for me to change jobs now, slowly. I started at the Austrian NCP, worked there for 2 years, and then thought, well, it's really great telling people that there are great pots of money, but what you really want to be able to do is bring them to the money and not just tell them about the money. And yeah, I have a biotech degree, so I stick to the techie stuff, but I've done everything: robots to keep people at home longer, old people. I've done projects, insects as source of food and feed. A lot of in the electric batteries for cars, anything really. So I'm relatively agnostic to the technology as long as I find it exciting and I find the team that I'm working with exciting. That's the most important thing for me. Interesting, motivated scientists and researchers, and getting them the money to do the work that they want to do. That's what gets me going.
Thanks. And actually, to tell the truth, I normally don't introduce myself anymore, but I probably should, because they probably I keep getting new listeners. I can see that in my figures, which are rising. It starts actually to rise exponentially. Don't jinx it, but so just for everybody out there, my name is Tudor Winter. I've been working with EU R&D funding since 2008. I've been a national contact point program committee member working for the Danish government. I've been a regional representative in Brussels. I've been a private consultant. I've been working sector-wise for the offshore wind sector for 5 years, attracting money both for research and industry and so on. So yeah, I've been around a lot of sites on this table called EU R&D funding. So that's my claim to fame, I guess, also for this podcast. Now, we have vibrant people in this virtual podcast studio, and just to qualify for the listeners, so here, Kristjan, you when AI, ChatGPT, when that sort of took off around the New Year's ish, right, January, it was obvious from my LinkedIn feed that you attacked this very actively. Aggressively attacking this as something that could maybe be used instead of letting it being something that would be a danger to your business as a private consultant. And and ever since it's obvious from the LinkedIn feed that you beforehand, your style on LinkedIn is to share a lot. You share a lot your thoughts, you share a lot of approaches, you're the sharing consultancy. I need to share what I do because that's what gives me authority as a consultant. So that's your style and discourse, which is wonderful to follow and see, because it generates a lot of attention and thoughts for people that follow you. So that's great. And with this, you have just been keeping on hammering on it and sharing about how you can use this tool, all the implications it has, how you are using it. You show through practical examples, videos in LinkedIn, videos, how it works to give people ideas of how they can tap into this. Georg, you're the one that sparked me to make this episode. because you said, "Oh my goodness, that was a post from you saying, "Gosh, shit, that's the end of it all. It's the doom of grants consultancy. Everything will you can throw a hand grenade into the room of grants consultants. That's it. We're not needed anymore." And then I thought, well, I think we have a nice two two sides of the system I can put into a virtual podcast room, and it's both people that've been with me before, so that's nice. And then George said, I want to have Gareth in. And then I thought, well, that looks, you also had a few comments there in that feed. So I thought, well, that's some opinions about the whole EU funding proposal regime, the way things work. So I thought, so that's the motivation for this panel. And the way we're going to do this, first, obviously for everybody, so everybody's on the same page out there of listeners, so we should have a short, if possible, Kristjan, short introduction to what is ChatGPT in relation to, what is it, and how does it work, and how have you started to working with it? Can you do that?
Sure, I can do something about it, obviously, but it's challenging, yeah, because there are so many brighter and really empowered people who produce such unbelievable amount of content around it that it's just hard to swallow as a student, and it's something I have to put it in practice. So for me personally, when ChatGPT came out in November 2022, I opened a beer and started typing. It was like I was waiting for this most of my grant writing career, because I used to, why? Because I learned in the past that my added value is not in writing the proposals, but leading teams or leading founders and so on in their thinking and change that thinking into words, yeah? And I'm a slow writer, so a tool like that was just a natural, a gift from God, let's say. And I was looking for similar tools in the past. For that, I found some automation tools from US and so on, but it never really worked, and it was expensive as hell. And suddenly this popped out, and so I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And at first, super excited, still excited. Just there are more and more, I think, impacts we are not even foreseeing on the society, but a bit later on that. For me, it was natural to just adopt it. So the way I took an approach to this was just, okay, ChatGPT is a tool, one of many now. It can help me do some things faster. So generally, I take it as a brainstorming and mostly productivity tool. Now, when people say, well, but what is it? Very briefly, it's just a generative AI which does something when you instruct it to do it, and anyone can do it, yeah? And the reason many people complain that it's not, it's a bit too generic and the results are not good enough and so on, well, there is some magic behind it. Magic is hidden in a way how you design instructions and so on. Anyway, the way I wanted to adopt it is very pragmatic. As a micro company, we are just a company of two. We understand quite well that if we want to remain relevant, not compete with bigger ones because it makes no sense, but maybe reposition ourselves, it makes sense to adopt such tools to produce things faster. And we are also a bit selfish. Selfish meaning what? It means that, I don't know for you guys, but I guess it's pretty much the same. You get a lot of repeating questions daily bombarding your inboxes, every kind of inboxes, asking the same things, which take a lot of your time, but nobody wants to pay for the answer. Yeah. So for me, it was super natural to just say, okay, maybe I can make a tool, a simple tool, like a combined Notion with ChatGPT, and instead of answering to each and every person how I can see if my idea is, good for this proposal or that proposal, just write a command, put it for free online, and say, here you go, do it yourself. You will get your feedback instantly, and most people love it.
Yeah, because that's, maybe we should just, so what this does is it really gives complex replies. They're not simple answers that ChatGPT gives back. It really gives quite qualified feedback, and it gets.
I mean, it's like It's like talking to a smart person.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. Yeah. That has a lot of knowledge in the background, and that's what it seems like. The seemingly smart person, because we've all been there. You come to a party and there's somebody sitting there who knows it all. Yeah, and has a smart answer that's sounds well constructed. You're like, man, I wish I was as knowledgeable as him. And then you go home, you Google it, and you find it's all garbage, or not. Yeah, and it's the same thing. But now you don't have to go to the party anymore, and you don't have to talk to weird people. You can do it in the comfort of your home, and it's just as tricky as the whole thing at the party. Yeah.
Which is the whole fun of the party.
Yeah. It was funny while you were there. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Now, the point for this panel here, what is the key problem or key issue here that is interesting many throughout, especially in the grants consultancy side, but also normal proposal writers in universities. So, is this something that's so good that I become oblivious? I'm not needed.
Actually, that's not my main concern. That it's better than I am, because that's a tricky one. But what I'm more concerned of is the writing part of a proposal is not the process. The process is a lot more. Yeah, there's defining which topics come in, lobbying for them on a national level, getting it into the work program, identifying what comes into the work program. Then you have the call text, then you go for it, and then you start writing. Then it gets evaluated, then it's running, then it gets reviewed. And I think if we just think about the writing process, then that's the whole Plato looking at the shadows things again. That's just not it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think many would think, because I'm like Kristjan, right? When I was a grants consultant, I'm a slow writer. So I would, if I was still that, I would probably perceive this in the same way, as a gift, because it would help me with the raw text generation, which I could then work with. That would be my work as a consultant, and then the whole process of developing a proposal would then be part of delivering the concrete content that was specific to that proposal. But it's a non-linear process to do a proposal. So you cannot. It's people who are perceiving it as I would just put the research questions in there and they will generate everything. They have not understood.
That's probably the most common mistake. So many people perceive this tool. Many, we'll see. I'm subscribed to several AI-related newsletters, like probably many of us. And it's really like hundreds of new tools every day, hundreds, impossible to follow. But still, what you can get the feeling is from many people is that AI will do job for you. There's just at the moment, we are not. I don't know where this will lead. Okay, no one knows. No one really does, but it doesn't. So, in order to get something really useful from it, you need to put a lot of effort and thinking in how to design a question. And people, I don't know about you guys, I see most questions are like, except some really interesting creators, it's like 3-4 lines. Yeah. So my longest command or instruction is 700 words. Yeah. It's a whole book. And it took me, I don't know, 3 days to test it, retest it, and to get the good answer back. So, okay, now it's there, it's scalable, so I can...
Wait a minute before we continue, because you created your own chatbot, right?
I'm sorry?
You created your own chatbot, right? So you took and... Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done?
I created several tools,
Yeah.
So first of all, most people, how we approach. We open chat and we type something in, and we get feedback, and depends on our level of understanding what excellent is, we are satisfied or not with the answer. Sometimes very fast, sometimes never. Yeah, like wife. Never. So what do you need to do is to work on these instructions. Yeah, and I soon realized, okay, I need to, as there are different types of programming, one shot, few shots, chain of thoughts, and so on. It's really a lot of theory behind, supported with studies, how you can make it work better. But at some point, it came to me, okay, people, if they are like me and I by nature am lazy, they will not want to open chat, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. It just doesn't work. So I decided to teach myself a bit, or educate myself a bit on Notion, and just integrated the prompts inside, meaning that user can just click or type just a few words instead of writing whole paragraphs, and the machine does it for them. So we did it for the idea generation, which is adapted specifically to basically any EU call you can imagine. Not just EU call, you can go to the bank or whatever. It just helps you think through how your idea should be set from the beginning. Yeah, who should work with you, why, and my reasoning behind is not just so. In generally, I'm not helping founders to win grant. I am trying to make them think how to grow business. Yeah. So even if they fail at grant, they talk to so many people and test their hypothesis on so many levels that regardless they can grow business. Yeah. And this is something I'm trying to integrate into these ChatGPTs. And we did plenty of tools like what's the latest we call viral LinkedIn profile generator, which is for the purpose of writers, but anyone really. So idea generator. Right now, I will come up with a new one, with a new tool, which will basically develop project objectives, project deliverables, go-to-market strategy, work packages. Really, I'm 80% done. We have another one done for the pitch deck creation. Another one, this one I like. Instead of, how it is this EU call good for me or not good for me? There are some tools available where you can just, use them, adapt them a bit, and instead of people asking us or wondering, really, is this call good enough for me? They can just ask the bot. Okay, you press the button, you see, okay, this is EIC, for example, EIC accelerator. It can be any other call. And you ask, what is this call? You get feedback. How much can I get? You get feedback. When is the deadline? You get feedback. What are the criteria? You get feedback. So these kind of tools are very helpful, in my opinion, for general public to get information very, very quickly, at no cost. And if someone says, yeah, but we charge for that and so on, well, most didn't for this part. I think the value here comes. So let me put it this way. If you can type 3 words and get an idea out, and you say this is good, this is bad, then my role here is to help you go deeper. Yeah. So it's a first layer. We construct the idea, general, some important parameters like what do you want to do, in what time, how much money, and so on, with whom. I can ask you deeper things. And this is still the thinking part, which is on us. For us, at the moment, is on us. We'll see what happens. I don't know if you heard about Auto GPT, which is scary, man. But we can come back to that later.
Now, why I wanted you to share with us what you did here is that it's because you are working with the technology, right? So you have sat down, you have informed yourself on how to use this, and you have made your own versions that you can use actively and promote towards the stakeholders, clients that you are supporting. Now, this is bridging us into so now we sort of have an idea, listeners have an idea what this is. This bridges us into the next sort of subsection where we will have a talk about what will happen to proposal writing. So what influence will this development have on the whole regime of proposal writing of everybody who's not just grants consultants, but also people anywhere, universities, independent, whatever, like people that sit down and put pen to paper and do these things. So if we look at the consultancy sector, if we zoom in on that, now I put sort of pinpointing it a little bit, narrowing it. So will it destroy grants consultancy, or will it make it thrive? So maybe now Kristjan sort of gave us an idea how he has worked with it. But Georg, what's your thoughts on this?
Who cares?
Well,
seriously.
I do.
No, seriously. No, I'm serious. I mean, who cares? Because seriously, it's like the cobblers are gone, the horseshoe makers are gone, and maybe soon the project writing consultants will be gone. Will the world be a worse place? I haven't missed a horseshoe maker in my life. Okay, I don't ride. Maybe if I was in horse riding, but who cares if we go? That's the basic thing that we have to think of. Yeah. I mean, what the question that we should be asking is, will it make science better? Will it make our technology development better? I think that's the real question. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at it, and this is, something where policy diverges from, a more capitalistic approach to research and development, because obviously, on a policy, you have a lot more interesting things than money in, innovation out. Yeah, that's not the entire equation. Mm-hmm. And the thing that we should be looking at is how much money in Europe is being spent on consultants that then we're not spending on real research.
Yeah.
It was the sociologists, it was the Greek and Portuguese partner in FP6 that you needed, otherwise you didn't get funded. Then it was socioeconomics in FP7, and H2020 it was the innovation manager and the ethics manager, and now there's a lot of bloat that's coming into projects, and the consultants have sort of always been in there now, and I'm not saying that it's completely irrelevant, because there is an administrative aspect and there is a non-scientific aspect to doing research projects, and I don't think that's that part is useless. Yeah, there's the research is not everything in the project, and what we definitely don't want to have is top researchers filling out online forms on the commission website and doing the cost reporting, because that, was done by the great grandson of Tokimata himself. Yeah. So we really want you need to have a buffer between what's going on in the research world and what's going on the administrative side. Yeah. But how much grant support do we really want and do we need? Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, my goal for my clients is to make myself, to put myself out of a job. Yeah.
Oblivious.
That's the goal. And with that in mind, I think these automated functions have a lot of appeal to them. I'm worried about a different thing. I'm not worried about what it will do to grant writing. I'm worried about what it will do to the evaluation, because my theory, let's call it that, is currently one of the limiting factors to writing a grant is the effort. Person months, travels, external consultants. I mean, I try to put a number on it, and it's probably somewhere around 60,000 euros. Maybe it's 30, maybe it's 100. I don't know. Yeah, but it's not 10, and it's not 20. Yeah, but if I can, with a program like ChatGPT, get 3 guys together and start getting reasonably good proposals in there, right? And I don't mean garbage. I mean, it's ones that are like, they're scratching on it. Yeah. Then I get the problem that, I mean, right now it's already a bit of an issue, because if there's a cancer call out, who's left to evaluate? All the top experts are in a proposal. They can't evaluate. So you need to take somebody else. You need to take the B crew, because the A crew is in the project, right?
Yeah.
But now, so you're ready with the B crew who's not 100% on topic, and now instead of getting 10 proposals or 15 for every topic, you get 200. Because if I can put it together in an afternoon, I will just write 700 proposals. And if 3 of them make it, I did an awesome job.
That's the scare. That's also one of my first thoughts when this started to roll. So, but the commission will be flooded with it. But we will get back to the whole proposal regime a little bit. It's not to sideline a good talk, a good discussion, Tori, but we will get back to from the whole regime of proposal. But I don't know, Gareth, do you have a comment on any of this until now?
Well, again, I speak for myself. Okay, so I
don't worry.
Put any responsibility on anyone else but me. I don't particularly like the quality of EU proposals to start with. I think most of it is full of jargon, nonsense, buzzword bingo, and my experiences with AI, my God, it's so much more structured, and it's all based on US and American English generally. And so the structures are very evident. There are 4 things to consider, and then it gives you 4 separate paragraphs. It's basic good writing. Seems to be done on a pedestrian level, but at least it's structuring its thoughts well, which is what computers do. I think we could all benefit from that in lots of our applications. They're rambling. Also, the jargon probably is going to be cut out because, the tools are a bit more precise in their use of language. I'm actually, in one way, I think it might help actually make more accessible. I will not get whole paragraphs of 1 sentences where people think subclauses are a mark of their intellect. So there is a structure, a grammatical form, usability of the language, which I think it might actually be a good thing. Okay, wow. But it also makes, when I now see some of my staff having used it, I can tell it's not they're not speaking. It's too staccatoed. The sentences are shorter.
I agree.
And I think there's a little, you can smell that it's just a little bit stilted. There's a level of creativity and persuasion, which is where your true skills. So I don't think any of you grant writers should underplay your value. Persuasion, skill, logic, rhetoric is something that a computer really just doesn't get, because remember, you're having to use all those skills on behalf of, and I'm going to use a few random names. So say you had a project on rail and you've got the SNCF, you have got the European Poverty Alliance working on accessibility and inclusion, the disability groups. You have specialist equipment that be made by Cisco for be able to support people that are blind on. You have to negotiate all these strange people's demands, needs, and that is never going to be done by a computer.
Yeah.
Even our weird personal behaviors of individuals who happen to work for companies, these are all levels of complexity that we cannot currently say can be handled by anything but a very skilled, competent consultant and writer.
Yeah, I have two things I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is it's sort of folding in my head now as we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I've just more or less finished my timeline series that I started off with in the grant, where I break down the proposal process into nitty-gritty little steps, so that everybody can go in and say, okay, if I am doing a call, if I need to find a call, or if I need to find a partner, or if I need to write impact, giving advice and directions, both myself and with guests. Now, that timeline series represents a lot of steps that ChatGPT cannot do. ChatGPT cannot, it can give directions to partners, but it doesn't have my network in its head, so to say. It doesn't have the personal relationships I made over years. That simple thing. The idea generation, wonderful. Writing out 35 or 70 pages of text, a lot of it can do, but it's probably gonna be a lot of corners where you cannot, work package descriptions or the connection between work. But it might be better and better, because that's also what's happening, right, Kristjan? That it learns itself better. The whole system, but there are a lot of elements there that you cannot. That it can never do, that you will always need a person to having the skills of how to put these things together. So which are time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
I fully agree, totally agree. So for example, we recently wrote one multi-partner proposal for us, basically. So what Chat enabled me, Kristjan, was to, instead of, I always worked for other people, whether I was employed or as an entrepreneur, I work for clients, but this time it helped me to come up with my idea and change it into a project. However, so I put it together super fast in 6 days. I know a colleague of mine, if she will listen, she will kill me, because she was writing for 3 weeks. But I learned some techniques how to do it really fast in terms of writing. But the magic part was exactly what you said, Niels, and that was I had to convince people. So sending good old emails, SMSs, and hop on the phones, and just say, hey, you remember me? We met like 3 years ago in Luxembourg, and we had some, chat, and and this is something which is in our domain, and it hopefully will remain in our domain, because if you don't like me, who cares if we have AI transcripting our conversation right now? If you don't like me, so you will not invite me to talk. Yeah. That's the magic of it. So, and this is why I think, and I hope it will stay this way, that at least at the moment we can take it as a really powerful, productivity tool and so on. But there are some things which are in our nature, and I'm sociologist, so I see it this way. So as long as we will not give away what makes us people, human, and so on, we are good. Yes, we will definitely face some challenges in our professions, not grant writing, every profession really. But as long as we remain as who we are, warm people, then we could be on the safe side. Could be.
I would echo. Sorry, what Kristjan, what you said there is essential. Innovation, real innovation and change, doesn't come from looking at past success. That's incremental change. Now, we have a system which looks at historical information and will take incremental change as the pathway, a linear, gradual. Real innovation comes from abrupt disruption when we merge things that have not been used together, and that demands creativity. And there's a level of what I would call blind belief in clever people. That it's never been done before. I can't reference other academic works that back me up sufficiently, but I'm taking 3 different areas of discipline, I'm pulling it together, and this is my new product. And yeah, it might not work, but fuck it, I'm going to do it. Sorry, I just swore. Okay, I'm going to do it. Okay, and that's a human capacity to do that. And this is why I'm not as worried.
Yeah.
I think loads of people will use it for maybe a section or 2 in a paragraph, but unless they come in and then mix that around, cross-reference the other section, change the structure, take out. I think for bad consultants, it'll be very useful.
You know what? So this is, I think I never reached the end of my point actually of the first thing. So the thing, no, it's just, that's what a nice conversations like this is what it actually will do, I think. So given that you have all these steps in the process that it cannot do, but there are steps that it can do, help you with. So I think it's gonna actually relieve the proposal writers a little bit with some of the stuff that are a little bit difficult to crack when you're tired, when things get rough, with budget negotiations, discussions about how to attack a specific research element in the these things makes it easier for the consultant to deal with, because some of the writing part, which can be quite rough if you're stuck. We all know it. The blank piece of paper. Shit, like, how do I crack this poetry-wise? How do I get if ChatGPT can help with those things, then you get a little bit breathing space with all of the other chaotic things you need to deal with. So that's what I think it would do. The second point that I wanted to share with you, because here we have 2 independent consultants, small boutique consultants, and then Gareth that works for the IT innovation, right? I've been working for one of the big consultancy houses, right? P&O consultants. I don't think that they're very comfortable with this, because I know from discourses inside the company is that they really care about what the traditional grants consultancy role. We are a consultancy house that we can identify the calls. We can all the things that you made with that chatbot, right? Identify the call is the bottom. These things are things that they consider as things that they are selling, or things that they make as an entry for a sell, for a lead, for a bigger task of, And again, for the writing part, I can reassure you that you have many managers, directors in P&O that they are very uncomfortable. That's my best guess. I'm not there anymore, so I don't know. But my best guess is that there are many people that are uncomfortable with the fact that what they think are essential core business of P&O is now something that is eroding under their feet. That's my best guess.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, for a big one, that might be an issue, because obviously what you're doing is structured differently. I think what do I bring to the table? Yes, a lot of knowledge in how do I get from a good idea to a great proposal. That's usually where I see my strength. And something that Gareth said is something that I, in other words, I say to my clients. Yeah, it's not enough to do what it says in the call text. You have to go above and beyond. The call text is the 80%. And we need to go above 80. And that's, remember this 80-20, 20% is easy, 80% is difficult, whatever, blah, blah. The effort rule. And I'm not saying that we can push it to 100, but we can push it to 95, 80, 85, 90. Yeah. And that's where it gets interesting. And that's a tricky one. And that's, again, where, innovation, creativity, thinking outside the box, bringing new partners, new ideas. And I don't know how it is with you, Kristjan, but I'm sure it's the same. You have a project, then you have, whatever. We had a bunch of radiologists, right? Rheumatologists. It was a project on rheumatoid arthritis. And you know what? I was talking a year ago with somebody else, and they said that the problem was that it's not only that we don't know which drug to give, but the patients aren't taking it. How can we do that? How can we stick to adherence? And then then we called up the person. I said, yeah, and they clicked, and both of them were sort of like, I'm not really sure, how this is supposed to work. And it's like, trust me, yeah, this is a big one, yeah. And now the project is running. This is so cool. We never thought of this, yeah. And it wasn't in the call text. It wasn't there, yeah. But it was an obvious project. It was obviously a problem when you sit down with the expert and they tell you about it. And that's I think where this where the human I think is still necessary. I think never is a big word, yeah. But in the foreseeable future, this is not going to be replaceable. The crazy ideas, the if why don't we paint a children's hospital like a circus and have the nurses running around in clowns? Yeah, AI isn't there yet. I mean, okay, they do it, so it's it's repetition. Yeah, but before that happened the first time, AI would not suggest it. Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's still the strength, and that's something that creativity takes space, time. It's like everybody has their best creative ideas when they're under the shower, whatever it is. Yeah. When you're not thinking about it, and when you're cramming, you can't. And you're focusing in on a project and not opening up to new ideas. And that's where I think it's going to get really cool, because I really think that the people who have the potential for wide thought can now have more time for it, because they don't have to cram on the gritty stuff where you're thinking, what's the best way to say this? Yeah. You have your text, it's crappy, the sentences are unfinished, you plop it in, it comes out nice, sweet, and say, I want it in the style of whoever it is that you think is applicable, and that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the novelty, the creativity, I'm not going to say never, but I think that's still a long way off.
But I think never AI is going to come a long way. It just started, but anyways, I think this is correct, because you cannot. I also work with. I have a music podcast with the band that I play in, where we dig a lot into creativity. How do you catch the seed of a song? Yeah, when you get it in your head, a line of music. How do you catch that? Because if you don't do that, in the second you have it, it's gone. But if you catch it, then you can have the possibility to make great art from that. So it's it's a little bit the same here. That's what creativity is. The human brain sometimes does a trick, and we don't even know how that, how it does that. It just makes a connection that you're not even sure yourself where it came from, but suddenly you just get an idea. Wait a minute, and then you move in that way, and suddenly you have a beautiful creation that you wouldn't have before. What you then can do, I guess.
Have you ever try it? Have you ever, when you had one of those weird connections, thought about it? Because I do that sometimes. I think, where the hell did that just come from? And it's usually because whatever, on the train there was a girl with red hair, and and then I saw a disabled girl with red hair, and then I was like, wait, what can we do for disabled people on trains? Yeah. And when you think about where your crazy ideas come from, and you sit back and you relax and you try to get where that comes from, you realize that there's every idea that we have is a lot more complex than we can frame it, and it has a lot more, fringes on it. And these fringes have little pieces of information in it. And I think I've just noticed that when you think about it, you sometimes find these little, hooks that are in both things. And that's why it's so important to do lots of crazy different things all the time, because that's what keeps you creative. Sorry.
I do think we might end up seeing some of our call text being written by a chatbot, and it would probably dramatically improve the call texts. Because I'm sorry,
do that.
We want you to save the world and fix Palestine, cure cancer, and help the birds in this remote region that have decreased. Thank you very much, and we'll give you 3 million for it.
And we think you can do it for €1 million.
So, it's like they mention every single program of the commission and link it all together. And so I think it might be better to write call texts than perhaps respond to it. But, we have a serious jargon problem. We have a serious middle-aged, middle-class, white European mindset, and we all think after 3 framework programs, as we totally are, but we think that way of talking is normal. We think that way of writing is normal now.
That's us. We sit.
Oh my God, it's not. Anybody that comes to it, just they look at it and they say, "What was that?" But we think it's normal now. So maybe we should hand it over and let someone, through a lovely application, suggest our next framework program.
No.
I think this is a wonderful bridge into the last big section of this panel episode, the EU system. So what are the implications of for the whole proposal-based EU funding system? It's this is we have been circling around it, and I've been stopping it dictatorially stopping this discussion because we needed to dig into it in the end here. So we've been touching and walking a little bit about the purge, because this is actually, I guess there would be departments in the Commission that are keeping an eye on. I think the little wheels are twisting and turning in their heads right now. It's because they are probably guessing that just the level of, we touched that before, right? How many proposals will, you said it, Georg, they will go from 20 or 50 proposals per call to 300, Is this something that's going to happen? Well, we can maybe say from our discussion, what we've been exchanging on and reflecting is that it's probably not going to rise so much, because there's still a lot of other things you need to be able to do, which are time consuming, and you need knowledge about how to do things. So you cannot just sit down and then you write and then you have a proposal. It's a create a lot more things, right?
We do have to say there are people who do engage with multi-parties and they do the negotiation and they seek out the partners and there's conflict resolution and there's bullshit. But there's other people who just write applications. It's 2 people sit down, get some two sheets from each partner, and they'll write the application. None of the partners will have met, and then they'll say, "Oh shit, we're on the short list." They'll all come together and panic, and then. So that's happening anyway. Okay, so we've got some good quality work. We've got some average work, which can be really well written, but actually no one recognizes the project when they find it's funded. They said, "Oh, I said I could do this, and now these are my functions." So we already have existent problems with the process. Okay, AI, could we make a way in which, we already use AI in social services and accessing social services. We use it in HR recruitment. Maybe there should be a first sift of applications. maybe there should be.
Does the SME instrument do something like that? At least they claim to have some sort of thing like that. I mean, one thing
two-stage process or what?
Yeah. One thing, Gareth, that you just reminded me of. Remember in FP7 when there was a scandal, when there was a couple of Italian and I think there was one Austrian and a Germany company, and they were just writing bullshit proposals? It was non-existent companies. They existed on papers. They had CVs from people that they stole off the internet. And then they'd have reputable companies in there as well. So it'd be like Fraunhofer does Work Package 7. And the way that they got caught was that so one of these organizations had a second level audit. So somebody, girl from KPHD or whatever went there and audited them and sort of said something was fishy. I mean, there was an office, there was people in the office, there was a whole thing there. And she thought something was fishy. And she came back a week later and everything was empty. It was a Potemkian office that they built and they had I don't remember what it was, 10 million, 70 million euros in grants that they had split up. And, they had presentations in Brussels clicking through PowerPoints of all the stuff that they built. And it was just all non-existent. Yeah. I mean, the good thing is that, the commission said, well, it's peanuts on the big scale, and we're not going to punish everybody because, this could have gone really bad. I mean, this could have been okay, we will do more of, being more of a pain to everybody. And this is water under the bridge, who cares? It's only a couple tens of millions. But I think somewhere in there, and that's what I guess was a trigger, is that we have to rethink, how do we want to go on the way we do? I mean, I have young organizations, startups coming, I heard, billions and euros, and can I go? And I was like, dude, you're gonna write something now. In a year, the project is gonna start. It's gonna run for 3 years, and you can't change anything.
Yeah.
If you want to change something, there's a risk that they'll say, no, you have to terminate the target. So it's basically, there's a lot of projects that they're at 75, they're 2/3 through.
Yeah.
They know that they're not going to make it, but there's no incentive for them to go to the commission and say, look, this isn't working. We'd rather spend the 2-3 million that we have left on something else, because the only thing that's going to happen is they're going to say, look, if it doesn't work, then you have to stop and give the money back.
You promised these results in the contract. If you don't follow this plan, then you have to pay.
You can keep trying, even though you're driving the car against the wall.
I think honestly, there are many issues here, and it's in the whole proposal-based regime of developing research or supporting research. Because this is something that maybe it's just autopilot. These are national systems, what you've done nationally. America is doing it. So the European Commission started developing the framework programs back in the days to make a similar system of proposal-based peer review-ish approach. But it's just grown to, if sometimes in the back-end P&O, people working with these things, we sat and reflected, can you just imagine the number of people, the amount of people every single year sitting and working, developing proposals, research and innovation proposals that do not get funding?
You don't want to do that.
Yeah. Why? What if they put their efforts into doing the research that they're applying for? If they have done that instead? If you aggregate that, it's crazy.
I have a crazy idea.
Hit us.
Why don't we turn it around? Why doesn't the commission use AI to put together the teams that they want and say, you four, figure this one out?
Yeah.
Look, I think we need to sit back. How could AI be used by the EU effectively in this program? So the first thing you would turn. The first thing is, when any application comes in, every application is put through a financial viability check on every bloody partner. Now, when I have a proposal coming in, we have to do that. And it's an additional step we've chosen to do, because some of these people have multiple companies, directorships, and people who've got law cases against them. And, we're paying €500 to €700 to get that done. So let someone write a tool that we can check some history on the financial viabilities and reputability of these companies. After that works, do a fraud check, because we have a basic rule which is no double dipping. You can't be paid twice for the same activity, and there's a huge amount of that happening. Plagiarism of their own applications, submitting to different funding bids, changing one or two elements. It's the same basic technology, but they say, oh, this is for blind people in train stations. So we check if they've got other applications that are similar with the same technology with other explanations. And finally, a commercial assessment, because Europe has to start saying, what is these companies' record of taking products to market and following through from money originally given them to buy? So is it actually an output action? 3 simple AI applications which would scare the crap out of the majority of the people who are bidding. I don't think the EU can sit back. I love the EU. I think but we need to protect good things. And if we don't protect our money and the fiduciary duty we've got, we're burning money. And I would have to say, think of the intellect in Europe. People who are spending their lives chasing grants instead of setting up a company in Italy to actually do something. When you have the intellectual capacity of the young of a country becoming, grantrepreneurs? Because they know they can just live off junk grants. It's like middle class unemployment. If they actually in their home country sat about and said, oh shit, I need to make money, I have to have a job, I better do something and work these things through, and I need to pay my rent, so I'm going to make these sales. Think of how much of our intellect we've diverted. That's quite alarming.
So I would like to add something on this in general. First of all, as long as EU funding, we agree probably that EU funding in general sounds nice, but it's really not sexy. So most of the applicants, many need money very fast. So at the moment when they figure out they need money, they are usually too late. So as long as the nature of funding remains the same, I don't see a huge flood of applications, because money is still slow. Yeah. The other thing that AI could impact the whole EU system is not just on the bidding side, but also on the other side, because there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people doing very administrative jobs who can be now or soon very easily replaced by some, sadly, commands. Yeah. So it will most likely affect terribly how many people work on the task which can be done like this now. I will give you a very specific example. We have some situation in our country where we are thinking about constructing another road through the whole country. Yeah. So it took 6 months for some public official to take out the timeline and check it out, just to notice they are too late and it has to be revised and redone and so on. But we are talking like millions and millions of money behind. So there's no need for that. Some, command will just click, 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 click. Tomorrow you start working. So this kind of things should change. Not will, should change. I will not go further. I had some ideas, but it will go way beyond this. But
I mean, you say you make it sound a little bit negative. I see that really positive, because do you think the person doing this menial job that's very uncreative is happy? It's just their job, right? And you can, and by removing that the necessity to do that workload, you can start doing. You can put those people into creative jobs, and I think that's not easy, because creativity is not, it's a freedom that needs to be learned. Yeah. But I think in the long run, I think that's a step in the right direction. So I'm totally not worried about that aspect of artificial intelligence. No.
Oh no, I'm actually very very thankful for this because I got lost earlier and I remembered. So we do spend a lot of talent, money, and so on projects which never work out. But hey, that's life, yeah. As long as we are 51% right, we progress. I think the problem might be with people who are skilled. So I know many grantpreneurs in terms of living from grant to grant, who are just not able, but they are not willing to really test their innovation on the market and live from it. Okay, so if we take this away from them, honestly, I don't know what happens to those companies because it's a mindset problem. It's not the skill set problem.
And that is where I'm just going to say officially now. I'll say something for the IT. That's why we exist. We exist. We do not pay for activity. We pay on outcome, and that's a shock to many of the people in our programs, and this belief that they get money for giving us deliverables and documents and a small software that they have no intention of commercializing. So the EIT was to bridge innovation, that gap, that valley of death, to commercialization. And that I can see is becoming, it's not just essential in the EIT. I think Europe, now that we have a fragmenting global system, and we are desperate for our what we would call our European technological autonomy. We can't be neither dependent on the Americans nor dominated by the Chinese. I think that there's a change in the air. This commercialization should be valued now, and taking the thinking into action. I see and I feel a change in Brussels. I think it's going beyond just the EIT. I think in general we're starting to realize that this cannot subsidize PhDs. This cannot be seen as free money. And we actually have to have improved lives now, and commercialization of technology is how we do it. So I'm very positive about that, forcing people to go out of their comfort zone and having to make money. They're not owed a salary by the state or the EU.
Just a quick comment on that, because I think if you see this from the Commission's point of view, if they were here with us, if we had a representative, they would for sure say, look, we have been since Framework Program 7, Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe, we've been increasingly focusing on the impact part. They now have to make not much more focus on commercialization strategies and the proposals and so on and so forth. This is what they would say, for sure. But the problem is that a lot still get lost. So it's not. It's a big oil tanker to work with. They're working with such a huge system where they have to slowly. That's incremental, right? So slowly, incrementally build on top, because there are also many interests influencing what the program should look like and do. But at least we must give them the credit that they are actually trying, at least in Horizon Pillar 2, to move into a place where impact plays a bigger and bigger role. But I think probably in these sections, the Commission where they sit with this, they can probably feel sometimes a little bit of a small screw in a very large system, where it's difficult to change. Because now we're talking about fundamental change to the system, right? So is this a way to do things?
Yeah, we are. Is Pillar 3 really going to be the only one that's closer to market, or is that bulk of money in Pillar 2 having to maybe embrace some new ideas? And I think, I don't even know if we'll really get the choice to discuss it. I think it's the member states are going to start demanding value for money, and they'll want to see jobs and they'll want to see creation. And I'm sure Europe is full of bright, clever people. If we just make it so that they actually see the value of setting up their own company, if we deal with some of the the structural issues on punitive behaviors if someone has a failed company and debt follows them. There's a structure around innovation, which is also financial, not just accessing money, but the accountability if you fail in Europe. We don't like failure. We should maybe not penalize people for it, and they would take more risks. So there is, both things the EU can do, but there's also structural things that enable us to use that technology better. We're not there yet.
Georg, sorry, I caught you.
When no, don't worry. There's when especially younger companies come to me and say, look, yeah, we want, we also want the big, we want to get into the game. I say, funding's like heroin. It's great when you start. It's great as long as you have it. But the day you don't have your fix, man, you're in a hole. Yeah. I mean, the Rolling Stones did some of their best work. Yeah. But they just had a lot of money in them. They just had constant access. Yeah. And as soon as you're cut off, it's a death trap, right? And so and I think that's a little bit of a problem also, because I mean, universities are relying on these fundings. Yeah. I mean, the UK shot itself in the knee with, who were the two biggest universities to get anything? Oxford and Cambridge. Yeah. And then there was a long list of nothing. And then, and then came some of the German ones. So there is that thing that we've, the European Commission with the framework program is the biggest drug dealer as far as funding is concerned that we have out there. So you can't just stop. Yeah. So just like you can't just take heroin off the streets, it doesn't work like that. Just like you can't stop, we will stop using combustion engines tomorrow, because it doesn't work. Yeah. Everything will break down. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that we have to keep going. We have to process change. And I think the waste is a really funny one, because look at what VCs are doing. 90% of what they're investing in is garbage. And I mean, and that was a couple of years ago. If you look at the valuations now with the crunch going on, it's probably closer to 95% of the money that they've put into investments is gone. And it's like, we don't care, because 10% are still good. I mean, now they're probably saying, well, the 5% are okay. But that's something that you have to live with. And I think somewhere around there is the trick, because it's taxpayers' money. We have to be careful of how we spend it. We can't just do whatever we want, but we want to be highly innovative, and it just doesn't work. And I think at the end of the day, you have to say, what do I want? Where do I want my money to go? Because if we don't fund our universities, we're shooting ourselves in the leg. If we don't fund innovative companies, we're shooting ourselves in the leg, right? It's like, which knee am I popping, the right one or the left one? Yeah. So both answers don't work. Yeah. So there has to be, I think, really a fundamental change in what you're doing, because the worst thing, and I really hate it, because you have really advanced institutes at universities that are doing stuff that is awesome, and it's going to be useless for the next 100 years. But then then somebody's going to do something with it. Yeah. And you can't, and asking these people, yeah, but what's your impact, 2 years after the project ends? You're like, nothing, I mean, we just, some guy took a picture, and a girl took a picture of a black hole. Who cares? It's a black hole. Nothing comes out. Yeah, but we took a picture of it. Who cares? Yeah. But do I say we should spend money on it? Hell yeah. My taxpayers' money. Please spend my taxpayers' money on taking a picture of a black hole. Not only because I think it's cool, but I think it will advance our society. And that's a really big, I don't think it's a one size fits all. And I think the ERC starting grants are a super idea. It's not your institution anymore that gets money; it's you get it. And if you want to change institution, you take the grant with you. Completely different ballgame. Right now, I mean, I work with people that write a grant, and they basically I call them up 2 days later. I was like, yeah, by the way, I'm leaving my company. It's like, wait, you just wrote a grant for 10 million euros and do it? Yeah, someone else is going to do it. I don't care. Yeah, and yeah, I understand it on the one side, and I don't understand it on the other side. Yeah, so there's a lot of things. There's a lot of potential. There is movement, and I think
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting and Gareth, that's why I really appreciate working with you every once in a while, because we know each other personally more than the business, but it's really insightful to see how you are taking things in a completely new direction. Yeah, where also a lot of the lump sum funding is also a progress that's going in a direction. We don't care how you do it. We don't care how much you spend. If at the end of the day, EDF does it. If at the end of the day the rocket launcher works, you'll get your money. If the rocket launcher doesn't work, you're not getting any money. I'm sorry. Yeah, end of story.
It's what it is. It's one hell of a large machine that the commission has created, because it's not just it's you have all the ones that are reliant on the drugs, right? And then you have the whole system that are living off selling the drugs, or preparing the drugs, or identifying how to make the drugs in all kinds of sorts of ways. If you think of the whole Brussels ecosystem, the whole value chain of
is it a value chain,
or at least ecosystems of influencers, of platforms, of committees that sits with the inter organizations, committees sitting, all this, you're putting input into the machine of what is important within thousands of different categories of different sub research areas. That whole system is reliant on a proposal based funding regime. So you cannot just disrupt that. How do you want to do that? What you can do, that you, Gareth, mentioned it. Take ChatGPT. The Commission takes it in and makes a European Commission ChatGPT that will evaluate. So they, in their end, they use the system to so they will be more efficient in evaluating things, no matter how much they get in. Throw it through the machine.
Yeah, but the other thing that would be interesting is, and that's something that I'm always a little bit, I think that's not well done in the current system, is it's the proposal ranks as it is. And I always think, and that's something where I say, no. I mean, as a taxpayer, I say somebody should at least get on the phone with them for half an hour and talk through them. It's like, what exactly do you want to do, and explain it to me again in a video call? Because it's a 12 million euro grant. You can take half an hour, or even 3 to have the evaluators sit in a room and talk you through. It's like,
I agree.
That blah blah on page 17, it sounds really good, but can you just run that by me one more time?
And they're taking it as then they take, we have so many good proposals. That helps me because I'm then going to notch them down, and then this, because that's what's happened. That's what evaluators tell me when I ask them here in the podcast. What do they?
And their AI would be really interesting. Yeah, but their AI would be really interesting to phrase questions, because basically saying, if the evaluators evaluate and then say, this is unclear. How does this really play out? And then you can actually have an automated system that does a little bit of a refining.
Yeah, or they should run innovation sprints. Is that also a way to I don't know, parts of the system test how just put the challenge, which would be the AKA the call text, and then have over a week, different teams can compete on making the best suggestion of how to attack that, and then through interviews.
Yeah, but you can't do that, because that's not how universities work. And you want to have, but you want to have them in the game.
You're right.
So you'd have to have a 2-tier approach.
I don't know what I'm saying.
No. I like the idea, but like, what if it wasn't, this is 12 million and this is your budget? What if it was, okay, we've got a scientific base that comes from academic centers. They get 6 million euros, and that's their part of the job. And then there's the implementation side of it, which starts with these 3 players. And if they don't work out, you can kick them out and replace them any point in time. Those are variable. Those are people that have to meet targets. Because I can ask a for-profit company to reach targets, because that's their daily business. if Cisco's routers don't work when they're shipped, you're just not going to pay for them, no matter how much time they put into setting them up. Yeah. But you can't do that with the research center works differently because they're also working, there's no profit margins in their development. In the universities are never going to sell, computers or something. That's not their business model. So you have, and by putting them in the same pot, that doesn't work. But if you split it and say, there used to be things for-profit companies only got 70% funding. I mean, I remember that in the FP7, I think it was, yeah. And then they had this weird thing with 160% overheads, and it got really crazy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was creative funding administration there.
No, that was because like for dissemination and management, it wasn't you had consultants, and they were like, if we only get 70%, how does that work? So they made 160% overhead for those activities. It was really weird. You had to differentiate everything. So they simplified it, but I don't think the simplifying made it easier for the people working on the project, but it eroded some of what was good in the process. Because if I'm a for-profit company and I'm getting 100% paid for everything I do, why should I bother to innovate afterwards? If it's lucky and I find 100 people who are banging on my door, please sell me this thing, then I'll sell it. But if nobody's at the door, next project, zack. Who cares?
Yeah, but it's important when you have a system like this, like the commission has built up, to have a critical view on it once in a while. Especially because we all been working within this for many years.
I know I'm biting the hand that feeds me, but it's my own hand.
So that generates reflection when you sit and work with it, when you are dealing with many different areas of it. I've also been in the influencing part, like in Brussels, just how much effort is being put into that, how many meetings people are having.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much work lies behind the few wind energy related calls in the energy program, which is just a small, narrow subsection of the whole energy program, right? You have, I think they have 5 or 6 working groups in the technology platform. They meet 4 times per year. They generate a whole lot of shitloads of suggestions for calls under the different subsections, technology sections within wind energy. And then the commission is choosing 2 or 3 or 4 of them. You're like, just that? How much how this whole system gets so many people to work and work and work and work and work, and then they develop then there's a project where the results are not being used.
But is the system rewarding activity, busyness, or is it rewarding output, impact, and product?
I don't know. Yeah.
So I'm very encouraged by the fact that Pillar 2 is starting to ask impact questions. I'm not going to be betraying any secret. We had an assessment done by our last 3 years of business programs, and by internationally well-known institute who are not parties to our organization, so they have no benefit. And they applied their process to us, and it was incredible because on the social value, they said the reality was your projects don't have social value and impact because they failed to implement a commercial approach from the inception to ensure that the wonderful ideas actually ended up on the street. So it was incredible, this social impact. These people, we thought they'd be talking about, how women are being helped on transport, or how late night travel is made safer, or how children are more comfortable going to school by walking in active mobility. They came back and they said, it's all really lovely, but everyone is failing because from its inception, they didn't work out how they would commercially ramp it up so that hundreds of thousands of people would be using it, and then they would get the social impact. Because many of our partners were saying, but we have great social impact. We might not have economic impact, but we do lots of great social. And we were like, where? So let's bring in an external evaluator and challenge you in that. And It was very refreshing. We didn't think that would be their finding. We didn't. But it's an important lesson for us that if you claim to have larger educational, social impact, you actually have large volume use makes impact. That's what makes impact. So it's been wonderful to see this idea starting to penetrate in multiple layers in member states and in Brussels, that people are starting to smell the air and go, there's something that needs changing.
Actually, I just invited a freelance journalist that's writing for Science Business. She posted an article she wrote on LinkedIn on the fact that the European Commission, they will start to try using hackathons for projects that finished with a result, typical technical projects, right? And then ask SMEs to see how they can commercialize that, how that can be used, that result, in a commercial way to commercialize it. So that's also a good example of that. There are people starting to think a little bit out of the box, starting to kick a little bit to the pile of leaves, as I call it, in how to maybe break up things a little bit and actually get some value, like return on investment of all the work. Wonderful, because that's the heartbreaking part, right? That you actually have a lot of good projects coming out with a lot of things, but they're just not being utilized.
But it's, part of that I think is because the projects are dropped on the last day, and they have these boosters and all of that, and that's all really great on a theoretical level. But what you actually want to do is the carryover. We built, for example, a prototype for a robot that can be at home in an old person's home, and if they fall, it'll detect that they fall, and it was a little bit of a you help me, I help you kind of scenario, so that it's more like a pet. And it was really cute. A 90-year-old lady was like, "What can it do? It can't clean my windows. I don't need it," And then it brought like the box. And it's like, "Where can I say thank you?" Yeah, it's like a real switch after a couple minutes of interaction. And this was, the first time that a robot was alone in a person's house for, as far as we know, anywhere, really for 2 weeks, stuff like that. And then the day was over, and that was it. And yes, we had, there was a spin-off company, and they worked on that, but then they realized, the main thing is, the arm hit something. So they said we need some kind of sensor on the arms that detects if I'm bumping into stuff. And then they made that sensor. It's called AirSkin. It's a super successful company. You can get it for KUKA robots and everything, which is basically lots of airbags, and the pressure change gets detected. And so you can have robots working without cages. So that was a spin-off that completely took a left turn. Yeah. But that also then left the whole thing up, where it was. Now the project ended like 4 or 5 years ago, and now I saw somebody took the old flat platform, reprogrammed to do something new, and it's doing something new at the Technical University of Vienna. So it nothing really dies. But that's something where it'd be really interesting to say, okay, so we have, you 5 people were on the team. We'll give you 100,000 euros. Yeah, do something, make a spin-off, right?
But that's a cool idea. That brings me back to what you said earlier, red hair and so on. The girl with the red hair, disabled woman. Yeah. You remember? Yeah. Because I was working with a company who developed radar technology to measure, I didn't know that, but it can measure heartbeat, breathing, and everything, but also if you are standing or falling. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was specifically developed to set the alarm if a elder person falls, for example. So we should talk, because maybe they can integrate the robot with the radar technology. We got approved step 1 for the EIC accelerator, but it stopped, They stopped because they had other things. But this could be interesting.
No, definitely. But I think it shows the problem. And I think, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure that this is. It started as a new project, obviously, but the one crucial thing is time, right? Because if if on day, project end +1, there's not money on the table, it's over. The people are gone. They're doing something else. They're on some other project, and you can't get them back.
Yeah.
So if they say, well, we'll get a national grant for us this, or we get no.
Yeah, report submitted, done.
Right, and that's the thing. What would be interesting if there's, and again, that's something where maybe an AI tool could be interesting. Yeah, you look at, in the last year of the project, you have this. Do you get a startup top up? Yeah, can we take you further? Right, and I think that's and I mean the whole problem. Should we fund? Should we not fund? I mean, that's always that's always also a big debate. Where should public money end and where does private money need to begin? Because public and private money never coexist. There's it just doesn't work. Yeah, the example that I heard once is awesome. Is Coast Guard. Yeah, in Germany the Coast Guard is 100% donations, and in every bar you can donate money. There's not a single Coast Guard donation jar anywhere in the U.S. because it's a government entity, the Coast Guard. You will never find anybody to support the Coast Guard. I mean, yeah, they'll buy a sticker and put it on their car or something, but no. And that's
thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
And so that's and I think there has to be a shift. There has to be a point where the public money stops and the private money starts. But I work with angel I know a couple, and they always say, well, it's really nice, if they start with a national little grant, because then somebody did a little bit of quality control and somebody looked at it, and I was just like, I'm not sure that that's the best indicator for success. But if it comes out of a long research project, and then you basically get 100,000 euros, and with that 100,000 euros, it's your job to go looking for VC investment in the last year of the project already. That would be an interesting carryover, because I think this because we don't want to have them on heroin all the time. They need to go on the other drug, substituted, whatever it's called, yeah. And that's VC money, public. Show me the money, yeah. I'll give you 10, but you got to give me back 1,000.
Actually, but didn't they? The commission play a little bit with this venture capital.
Yeah, the SME grants and the co-funding and the World Bank, and don't get me started on that one.
That's also, again, the system, the big huge system the commission wants to play with these things, but
yeah, but that's I have a very my opinion is very strong here. I don't. Flexibility and pivoting is not two keywords I would associate with most of the EU funding programs that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That
also simplification.
Yeah, but that simplification just means that another 10 years of guaranteed work for consultants. It's awesome. Yeah. I love simplification.
Yeah. I remember when I was in Brussels to some meeting, and the commission presented and said, simplification is not always simple, We're like, yeah, we know. We know.
Yeah, no, it's the good old story from P&O. We pray to God every day the commission will make it ever more complex to approach the funding schemes. More rules, new rules, change them. Change things. Yes, please, by all means, because then they need me. Dear clients.
Yeah, change the interfaces. Yep.
No, I think we are pretty far away from the AI chat box now. But it was, but that was exactly because that's the root of the thing, right? It's a
chatbot that can help in reporting. Yeah. That's what the commission needs.
Yeah, a program officer chatbot.
No, seriously, stop filling out these stupid online blah blahs. Yeah. Chatbot asks the grant receivers a couple questions, and based on logic and probability, we'll probably be really good at figuring out who's needs a second level audit and who doesn't.
On that note, I'm just gonna land the plane before we say goodbye to the deal. Anything else, Gareth?
But okay, so I definitely think that we should expect people to be using generated content, but it will never be enough because of the complexity of putting together good bids. But I see huge value in the commission adopting this. I highlighted to do both the financial review of parties before. That can be automated. We don't need to do fraud checking for duplicate bids across multiple programmers, and then track record. Do they actually bring products to commercial level? But then also, perhaps if we have good access to AI and the EU opens up its data to an appropriate company, they can say, okay, tell me of my bids within this program, who's most likely to be misusing funds, and flag that. Because, I mean, instead of this random, we will choose 5 projects and we will audit, just actually say, give me my risk criteria and provide me those that I should be checking. I think the EU could start to use this to help themselves structure, order, and do better. So, yeah, you guys, all you consultants, you're still going to have work. Don't worry about it.
You'll be fine. Okay. I agree that this should be the advice to if they listen anyways. I know some commission people listen. I can see that. So it's use it. Put up a wind turbine instead of a leaf fence. Use it yourselves creatively and actively in the way you administer these funding, because it's without we love you, EU Commission. You do so much good for us, but there's also a lot of things to say about the way things are done. So that's just it's out of pure love that we that we go through all these discussions and reflections. So,
but it's coming. It's here. It's over. I mean, Henry Ford just put his first Model T on the ground. Yeah, and if you think that you're going to be the biggest horse rancher in Detroit, time to sell your horses. Yeah. There's a new game in town, and it's about opportunities, and there are opportunities on every side.
Yeah, times they are changing.
Yeah, no, and I think, and I really think, I mean, when you summarized it really well, Gareth. Yeah, those are really low-hanging, easy ones. Yeah. Who's getting output? Who's cheating? Yeah. Where do we have potential? That's what these things are for. That's what you can really use it for. And then, and it can support in the political debate. When you say why are we going on this topic? Well, that's where we have innovators. Innovators that are bringing products to the ground. That's where we have a chance against.
And they will use ChatGPT.
China, US, whatever it is, whoever it is. Yeah. This is where our friends. And these are the ones that are milking us and stealing the milk.
For sure.
It's a no-brainer.
Thanks, guys. I'm just gonna land the plane. Thanks, dear listeners, for listening to the end of this panel discussions on the AI proposal preparation, the EU funding system. It's been wonderful. Hope you thought so as well. Give you some reflections, some food for thought. Just reminding everybody here to check out my back catalog of episodes. Here I've started to past 50 as we speak here in this group now, and it increases every day. So lots of content in there. Should be something for most people now, actually, in there. Thegrant.eu, that's where you find it. There you'll also find the hub, where I try to put resources, where you'll find the most common things, the participants portal, some webinars from the commission, stuff like this. And there on the website, please, if you have sympathy with what I'm doing here for this podcast, by all means, register and subscribe to the email list. That's the best way for me to grow as a podcast. So please, if you think it's a good thing I'm doing here, do that. That's going to help me a lot. I'll be happy for that. That's it, guys. Let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.